Hi, I'm Sarah Saint-Laurent, a change management and communications professional. Yesterday, Governor Northam issued Executive Order 55, expanding the shelter-in-place directive through June 10th. This will affect your organization and your remote workers, and your current challenge has become a bit more daunting. I want to supply you with takeaways that were developed during a recent live web call consisting of Tim Creasy, Chief Innovative Officer for ProSci, and what turned out to be over 700 change professionals like me. Organizations around the world are experiencing the same adoption challenge. How do we position employees to be successful at adopting the following change? To seamlessly shift their energy, their time, and their brain trust or expertise to be and share as a nimble and committed remote contributor. This is our challenge and our focus. ProSci is a leading change management consultancy, and their distinguished ADKAR model has been used for over 20 years to produce effective human-centered change in some of the most challenging situations, including the base realignment and closure process, also known as BRAC, where the ADKAR model was used in the strategic redeployment of hundreds of thousands of military personnel. I've been using ADKAR myself for many years. I also use other change management models, and I don't want you to think that I'm here soliciting ProSci. I'm just wanting to share with you some very enlightening information that I think will benefit your organization. But before I do that, I want to gently remind you that not every employee is thriving while working at home, even though it may seem to some like a luxury. There are many that are not going to function well without, the benefit of working within their organization and working without help. And also, please remember that there is a very real fatigue going on. The globe is dealing with a crisis the likes of which most have never even considered, let alone are we prepared to consciously understand fully. This is a lot. Your people likely had a plan for 2020, probably a roadmap, goals, milestones, maybe even dreams and aspirations. This has all changed dramatically. We're all affected on both the conscious and unconscious level. I want to share quickly that while we are all carrying on for the benefit of our organizations, our families, our communities, behind the scenes, up in our heads, there are a million things going on which we aren't even aware of. It's a lot, and patience and compassion go a long way. Think of change management as the ultimate human capacity development tool, and change specialists as capacity drivers, often wearing the hat of internal public relations specialists. In large change, like deploying an entire workforce to work remotely or relocating countless military personnel, these initiatives require high adoption and usage in order to be successful. We've already been preparing for change. Around the globe, organizational agility was already a strategic imperative. Why? Because the world is bigger and more interconnected. Change is happening faster, change is more complex. The advent of artificial intelligence and hypertechnology create more information and connectivity than ever before. Organizations must be agile and nimble and willing to experiment with change and ultimately to be iterative. In the recent past, we needed to be prepared for change in a lot of areas, including augmented skill building, technology, big data, capacity building, mobility and dispersed teams, customer experience, user experience, employee experience. But now we need to be prepared for something different. This shared global change challenge on a scale never before conceived. This is affecting your talent's personal life, work life, mental processing, health, and well-being. Because of disruption, lack of clear, cohesive messaging in our personal life, our professional life, and on a global front, coupled with ambiguity and a fear of the unknown, there is a heightened level of tension. I'm going to give you a very high-level understanding of the ADKAR model from ProSci, then the driving versus restraining forces your talent may be experiencing in each of the 5 steps of the model. But the most important thing that I want to share with you is the solutioning. That's why I'm going to move quickly, but focus on the solutions. That's where our focus will be. So bear with me as I move fast-paced through the front end, since I want to have the bulk of this short presentation be the offering of solutions in an array of practical ways for the challenge that you are presented with. So what is ADKAR and why is it important now? Jeff Hyatt, the founder of ProSci, says, the secret to success change lies beyond the visible and busy activities that surround change. Successful change at its core is rooted in something much simpler: how to facilitate change with one person. Without help, people will not want to step out of their current state, and if the change doesn't stick, they will revert back to the old state. ProSci's model has 5 sequential parts, and it's called the ADKAR model. The first is awareness, not simply knowing that a change is coming, but understanding why the change is necessary. D stands for desire, the development of a personal desire to get on board with the change, participate in the change, and support the change. Different people are going to have different desires and personal motivators. There are also organizational motivators to take into account. What's in it for me is influenced through various means and through personal preferences. And that could be money awards, bonuses, recognition, perks. It could also be legalistic, in the mantra, this is the way we do things around here, or you need to create a desire immediately. It could be shame-based. K is for knowledge. I know how to make this change based on understanding why the change is necessary and having that personal desire. But, often the K stage is attempted by organizations prior to the A stage, by sending folks off to training or sending them a 1-page instruction on, the why, and hoping that they figure out their motivators themselves. In fact, think back, how did you deploy your team to work remotely? How much time did you put into that? And did they understand the big why? And did they have time to develop a personal desire? Knowledge is not the same thing as ability. And there is a natural knowledge to ability gap. You may know what you need in order to do something. For instance, you may know that you need more exercise or that you need to quit smoking, but you may not have the ability to quit or the ability to start. The second A is ability, the demonstrated capability to do the change. I can do things the new way as I need to or as they are required. The ability to make change in a demonstrated way. And finally, the R is for reinforcement, to sustain the change, to continue to implement the change in the future. So that's a very high-level view of ADKAR. But how does it work in our scenario? To position employees to seamlessly shift their energy, time, and brain trust or experience to be and share as a nimble and committed remote contributor. So our objective is to determine how do we help talent to excel as a virtual employee. What we are ultimately looking for are the following employee responses to the ADKAR model and their feedback or questions. So we hope that with A, awareness, they're going to say, I understand the change and what it means. This should reflect the mission statement and the vision and value statements of an organization, and it should be tied back to the new normal. In your case, Akima's core mission is to enable superior outcomes for our customers' mission while simultaneously creating a long-lived asset for NANA consistent with our Inupiat values. I understand the need to work remote, promote healthy hygiene, self-isolation, quarantine, while purposefully staying focused, committed, and engaged to align with my organization's missions and serve my shareholders, the Inupiat people. I want to do this. Now, this is going to be different for every individual. How does this benefit me? Your employees are going to be asking that question. What are my personal motivators for remote work and self-isolation? What are the benefits to my organization and to my community and to the Inupats by remote working? How do I overcome my resistance to remote work? Don't worry, we're going to address the solutions in just a minute. The next question we want employees to ask is D. I know how to remote work as a nimble, committed, focused employee, and I have the knowledge. What do I need to know to make this remote work successful? What do I need to know so I can benefit my organization? What do I need to know to benefit my community? What do I need to unlearn things that are no longer working? Where have I been misinformed and need to be reinformed? Where do I go for accurate information? That's the stuff that your remote workers need to be asking. Next, yes, I have the ability to demonstrate best practices. What specific behavior changes do I need to adopt and demonstrate? What knowledge and ability gaps can I self-identify? What barriers and obstacles can I identify now that could prevent me from successfully working remotely? Where do I receive coaching on this? And if I'm experiencing challenges, who do I talk to? Next is reinforcement. We want the remote workers to say, I do have continuity, and I know the best practices to sustain this change. So they might be asking, how do I make actions required to successfully make the remote work sticky? What measurements are in place to let me know how I'm doing? What steps do I create for sustainability of these new skills? How can we and I celebrate this success? So, what are changes to mindset, attitudes, beliefs that are required for remote workers to excel as remote contributors? Well, the mindset needs to be about self-motivation, self-organization, self-management, focus, accountability, increased trust, better communication, eliminating the victim mindset, flexibility, routines, sticking to schedules, regular check-ins, retaining connection, collegiality, and humanity as they pivot into a virtual setting. And they are figuratively walking into the front door, even if that front door leads to their living room. They're going to need your help, and generally that's going to require you as managers and leaders to coach and be available for coaching. So let me lay out the ADKAR model, and more importantly, let's look at the solutions to those questions we just talked about. Okay, starting with awareness. Driving forces for awareness are always going to be about communication, clear, concise, effective communication. This can be in the form of town halls, stand-ups, check-ins. I hope your internal communications are on spot. Your intranet is working and disseminating meaningful information. Personal and internal motivation and vision or aspirations need to be addressed in awareness. But what are some of the restraining forces to awareness? What causes an individual to not understand the why? Do you know that 58% of people surveyed said that they trust strangers more than they trust their own boss? Building trust now is the most important thing leaders can do. This is the most disruptive time anyone working for you has ever experienced. We need you as leaders. Low credibility of the source or the sender of information is a big deal. Messaging has to come from the right person, the person most trusted, and or the person who is ultimately steering the ship and laying out the vision for the company and its shareholders. Perception is another restraining force. Perception that the reason for change is invalid or unnecessary. What if the company or organization has a history of command and control leadership style? What is the company DNA? And has it historically been resistant to emotional intelligence and big change? Having no interest is also a big resistance factor. Internal fear of job loss as a result of the change. What if this change proves that to the employee that they're redundant? They may have an internal fear of losing their job that you need to be aware of. They may also be saying, this is temporary. Why should I put much effort into it? Low technology capabilities and not allowing the message to be delivered by the preferred messenger is going to be a problem. And of course, rumors, misinformation, and miscommunication is definitely going to be a resistance factor or a restraining factor. So what are you planning to do about it? Well, here are some solutions. How do we overcome the restraining forces and help them say, yes, I understand why I must seamlessly shift my energy, time, and brain trust? It's going to require transparency on the part of management to let them know that, you don't maybe have it all figured out, but you're doing your best and you're definitely asking for their help. What do they need and what is their feedback? Do they need peer training? They need to know that we're all in this together. Effective communication, crisis-driven awareness is dependent upon clear, concise mission and vision. And who is communicating that message? Coaching senior leaders on empathy and communication is going to be required. There are always preferred message senders. Know your audience and know who they want to hear from. We want to also avoid a paralysis by ambiguity, a paralysis by the volume of change. This is big stuff. Help your people to avoid becoming paralyzed. We must all be nimble and agile right now. Okay, let's move on to desire. Desire's driving forces. Well, how are you incentivizing your people? It can be a desire built on, I need you to be a team player for the whole of the organization. We need you more than ever. Desire can also come from a fear of the consequences of, if we don't do this, what would happen? Maybe the alternative is worse. They could have a desire to belong to this community in a way that they've never have before. They may want to be taking personal ownership. Allow them to become part of the solution. Restraining forces for desire is obviously the fear of the unknown, and that your people are grieving the old way. They're going to have mental and emotional fatigue. And they may see that the change isn't aligned with their self-interest. That might be a fear that they have. They may have a low confidence in the change as a success. They may see your organization as not historically adept at big change. So what are we going to do to help that contributor feel that they're part of the solution? Well, maybe if they're saying that they want flexible work hours while remote working, maybe they're an individual in a house and they would prefer to work 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. Why? They may be juggling challenging environments. They may have children or other family members like elders in and around. They may be trying to juggle homeschooling, and they're asking for some flexibility in their work schedule. And as a manager or leader, you need to figure out why not. Why can't you help them with that? Paint a picture of how they can participate in solutioning and give them a sense of some control. Leadership needs to bring a sense of, we've got this. And management needs to be adaptable and flexible. Patience is going to go a big way here, a long way. Demonstrate the benefit. Management needs to exhibit recognition of the workings of the communication and how it benefits the individuals. In the end, your message is, going to be, hey, we're trying to create your desire because you know what? If we can do this, we can do anything. Let's move on to knowledge. What are some driving forces for knowledge? Well, training and education. Give your staff the time required to learn the new normal and all the new applications. Build in the fail fast mindset. Let them know that we are all learning and it's okay to get it wrong. If you fail fast. Realize that you've just failed and get yourself back up and try again. Experience helps staff to learn in the moment and on the fly, and that good is always good and perfect can actually equal lost productivity. Good is good. Access to information, this is critical. Where are they getting the information and who is the preferred messenger? I already touched on that. But are you aware that on average, a worker on any given day, even under the best circumstances, is wasting 2.5 hours looking for information that they can't find? During this crisis, time is a premium. Help your people know where to access what they need. Mentor your people. Ask questions from a curious mindset instead of a dictatorial mindset. Ask them, what might this look like? Help me understand. Can you say more? Hey, I want to fully understand. Please give me your feedback. Okay, let's move on to restraining forces for knowledge. insufficient time to learn, inability to learn or remember, inadequate resources, including money, no access to needed information. Here's a big one: too much information, information overload, contradictory communication. So here are the solutions that we as change managers want to give you. Start implementing micro learning. Start using video to storytell and show and demonstrate success stories. Storytelling and micro learning, move that into informational chunks. I use micro learning and info chunking in the form of whiteboard videos. They're 1 to 2 minute micro learning elements where people get the information they need and they can upload it to any device at any time, and it's there at their fingertips. Train them on time management and best practices. Keep this simple. I suggest using the Pomodoro method. If you're not familiar with that, that is a time management tool where you suggest that they use a timer in focused blocks of time for 45, 60, or 90 minutes, whatever works best for them, and then they take a break. Moving on to ability. Abilities driving forces. The demonstrated ability to be a nimble remote contributor. Well, it takes practice, and you need, as a manager and leader, to allow your folks to have the time to practice so they can demonstrate their ability. They need examples and role models. They need you as leadership to help them. They need to be able to access the right tools. We've already talked about that. They need your feedback, and they need to give you their feedback. We all need key performance indicators. We all need ways of measuring whether or not what we're doing is working. One way to do with this is to have a 10-minute virtual stand-up meeting at the end of the day, where a team gets together on Zoom and everybody, gets together and tells you how they performed, what's their understanding of their performance, and you can give them your understanding. Make sure that you are implementing curiosity and patience. Allow them time to grow their capability. So what are some of the restraining forces? Well, they're going to say straight off the bat, I don't have time for any learning. I don't have time to learn to do this. And this belief can feel overwhelming to your remote people and create tension internally and externally. Ensure your staff knows that you understand there is an intellectual and emotional learning curve going on. Throw the how-to manual out the window. There's going to be psychological blocks. Your people are going to be saying to themselves, can I do this? Am I capable of doing this? Help them eliminate any fear around perfection and focus on developing a new set of expectations in times of crisis. They're going to have ingrained habits. Be available to mentor your staff on an individual level to develop best new habits, especially around time management and focusing on understanding what Q2 thinking is, which is prioritizing what is important over what is urgent. Now, this is a Franklin Covey tool, which you can look up and understand the 4 quadrants of time management, or you are welcome to ask me for some help in that. Knowing that your people are time poor will help you as leaders become more economical in providing your resources and your training. Always remember, shorter is better. Speaking of which, I'm trying to run through this as quickly as possible. but I don't want to overlook anything. So what are the solutions that we as change managers want to give you to help your people be nimble remote contributors in the knowledge department and the ability department? We'll start with management bringing in grace. Every human has the capacity to grow. Capacity building is important. Building the capacity for your individuals to be agile, flexible, focused, and committed contributors. They need your help, though. Lead them from behind and lead them from in front. Research the resources that are absent. Look for gaps and provide help to your talent. Bring the grace in. Be a human. Know your teams. Lean in on their strengths. Rely on what Gallup and Clifton call strength building. We need management to know the strengths of the individuals and give them what they are best suited for, even within their lanes of expertise. Help them to keep things simple during a transition or change. Help unmuddy the waters for your people. Be human and recognize the collective humanity that is your organization. Thank your people. Coach your people. Don't let perfection get in the way of progress. Help eliminate things off their plate. It's much easier to be a nimble contributor that has 6 things on their plate rather than 7 things. And of course, it's always going to be better if they can even have 5 or 4 things. Help move things off their plate. Provide priority and focus your talent on what is important rather than what is urgent. That again is quadrant 2 of the Franklin Covey 4-quadrant time management tool. Finally, let's move on to reinforcement. What are the driving force of to reinforce habits to be a nimble contributor? We want the changes to stick. We want the new skills, the learning, and the growth capacity to stick. So how do you do that? Well, we celebrate as an individual and as a collective. Your people need recognition. Reward them through recognition. Give them feedback. Visible performance measurements. We already talked about implementing KPIs. Make accountability mechanisms for them as an individual so they feel ownership and also as a team or as a collective. What are some of the restraining factors we see in reinforcement? Well, the rewards aren't meaningful or relevant. So here's news. Guess what? The number 1 reward, according to a Gallup poll, is recognition, a sense of being valued and belonging to something meaningful. It's not always about a monetary reward or time off. They want your recognition. They want you to see them. Also, absence of reinforcement, failure to reinforce. Please, management and leaders, demonstrate the new normal. If belonging to something bigger than yourself hasn't been of value, and I'm sure that it has for Akima, we'll start thinking out of the box and even have your people think out of the box and take risk and let them know that you welcome ingenuity. Ingenuity creates an abundant mindset. Let them know they are safe to share their opinions. Here are some solutions for making all of these changes stick. Say thank you. When someone exhibits the ability to shift, let them understand your appreciation. Leaders, please say thank you and use every internal communications technology at your avail to do this. Send personal notes versus the US mail. Send them digital thank yous that you can get off of the web and use them in emails. Celebrate success collectively whenever possible. Do shout outs. Have a daily recognition fest. Ask for feedback from your talent on ways that they would like to sustain the changes. Be tenacious in asking for input from your people. Okay, so that is it. I'm wrapping it up. I hope this has been beneficial and helpful. I wish you peace and hope and fortitude and clarity. And above all, I want you to know that I believe in all of us. Thanks for listening, and I'm always available.